no secret. It's plain to see. And I love you. And you love me. It's no secret. You know it's true. You love me. And I love you. The only time we seem to meet is in the middle of the night. Only then can I feel your heartbeat. Till something's not right. Together I see you and me, always and all time. But not everyone would agree. To them it's a crime. It's no secret. It's plain to see. Yes, I love you. And you love me. And it's no secret. You know it's true. You love me. Yes, I love you.
We will be starting the show in 1 minute. We're just going to wait for some people to join, and we will see you guys soon. Hey, James. Hi, Bob. Hey, everyone. Start broadcasting to the world. If you hit those two little lines down at the bottom, you'll be able to broadcast to the world. So start doing that as we get set up here. Thank you so much.
The same way too. And I know your mind. We can't use no telephone. Well, others can't hear. And all I get is a dial tone. But the message is clear. It's no secret. And it's plain to see. Yes, I love you. I know you love me. It's no secret. You know it's true. You love me. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Welcome to YNS Live with NFL Thread. I am so excited to have my guest, Kathryn Camsey, and she is the founder of Fairy Club Love. And I'm so excited because I've had Kathryn on way back when. We're like in the hundreds, 50, 75 episodes. Kathryn was my number 70. So welcome, Kathryn, to YNS Live. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you back because I know there's been so much. I mean, even when we first, we met in Clubhouse and then we just like really hit it off, and you were one of my, first guests when I started doing a series called, Love What You Do. And your story is tragic, but then amazing. And so I'm going to have you jump into that. But what I want everyone to do in the audience, welcome everyone. If you guys can, go down to, if you're new to Fireside, if you're here, listening to in LinkedIn, we're on LinkedIn Live. How are you guys doing? We're on Facebook Live. We are on Twitch Live, and we're also on YouTube Live. So if you guys are joining us here, Welcome, welcome. And if this is your first time to Fireside, I would love for you guys to go down to those two little lines at the bottom. And if you click on that, you'll see where it says broadcast to the world. You can send it to your Facebook. You can email people. You can text people. This is going to be a really fun show. And again, there's some tragic parts to it that, get ready because it's very heart wrenching and gut wrenching. But then what has come out of it is really incredible. So if you guys can do that, that would be amazing. And then I also want to shout out to my sponsor, Together Women Rise. If you guys were in the show last week where Barb and Wendy were talking about their story, it was really incredible. Together Women Rise is an awesome organization that helps with women equality. So head over to togetherwomenrise.org and you can sign up for their newsletter and see how you can get involved. But definitely head over there to do that. But again, Kathryn, I am so excited to hear where you are. But give us, people can go back to episode 70 and they can go and listen to your story. But if you can just give us a little bit of background, where and how you formed Fairy Club Love, that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. I'll try and keep it brief, so interrupt me.
No, don't keep it brief because, it's your story. I don't want you to keep it brief, but
I really love to focus on the positive, but obviously the positive has come out something negative. Way back when, I've always been into everything to do with crystals and spirituality and oils and meditation, just always been a huge part of my life. Love it. Always, even as a child, I was into all of that stuff and fairies and all that sort of thing. And I had a pretty good life, brilliant childhood. Everything was fabulous. All sorts of wonderful things. And then in 2011, 2 weeks before my wedding, I had a phone call from my sister, and I was a TV presenter, TV host, did you say in the US, at the time. And I was literally just about to go on air, and she calls me and told me that my niece had been murdered when she was 20. She was 20 at the time. And obviously, it's as if time stopped and I changed, and I had to rethink how I was going to manage my life in dealing with something that was so tragic and devastating, but not only to me, because I have always been very positive. I'm really good at putting a smile on things and I'm fine. But suddenly it was the first thing in my life where I couldn't say to my friends and everyone, it's fine, because it wasn't. Right. And then everything, we were very, very close. Alice was, a huge part of my life. I used to have her a lot as her auntie. But I think apart from that, obviously, which is devastating, it was the way that she went. It was the fact that it affected everybody in my family. So suddenly all my support system went. I have 20 people that are in my close-knit family, and suddenly everybody was shattered. So and also then my husband at the time, we were all going to go to Hawaii. I was about to get married. So then with all the grief, I'm having to have conversations with people, having to cancel the wedding and having to do all of this. My husband was in Hawaii. It was just horrific. Has anybody that ever has lost anyone? We've all, we've lost people, and it's always sad. But I think with a murderer, there's a different level that you have to suddenly accept with regards to suddenly, the person you love is being spoken to about, as evidence, and, having to see my sister go through all of that and then having to go to the court case the year later. And, it comes with so many other things. And my sister, Alice's mum, has been absolutely amazing. She's very spiritual and very inspiring. And got a lot of strength from her from that. But really, for me, I wasn't sure how I was ever going to sort of smile again. How do you get past that? So that's when I started to use all these modalities and started really sort of introducing them into my daily, putting myself into a really strict habit so I could pull myself out of that grief. So using my crystals, using my oils, using meditation, yoga, healthy eating. It's no good having a glass of wine, as tempting as that was, completely getting understanding that suddenly I had to deal with this, because you can't carry that grief. You get two choices: be sad forever or get up and deal, because everybody in life has a story, a sad story, a happy story. I understand that people will talk to me and say, oh yeah, but it's really sad what happened to you. And I'm like, hang on a second. Sad is sad. If that's your dog dying, your fish dying, your granny, whatever is, sad is a feeling for you. So I understand that. And what I realized, especially having my other nieces around that were younger, and now certainly my daughter, was I already had those modalities that instantly I could turn to, because I knew about all of this stuff. So my passion became, we should teach children all of this now, before life happens, before they get their heart broken, before they lose someone they love, before they go through something toxic in their life, so that they already have a toolbox of stuff that they can go to. Know that you've got angels that you can call on. You can oils will actually help change your mood. Knowing that having a green smoothie and grounding yourself with crystals and meditation is affirmations. Looking, however sad your situation, there's always something to be positive about. There's always gratitude that you can find. Journaling your feelings out, burning that letter. There's so many steps that you can have. And especially now, especially with the pandemic, especially with what children are going through now, and having things like child suicide as part of our conversation, children cutting themselves as young, so young. This didn't happen when I was younger. It wasn't, maybe it did, but it wasn't as around as much as it is now. And I think, with social media and, like I said, the pandemic, we as adults have to step in. We have to give these children tools. We have to empower them. We have to give them the tools to teach them how to make their lives better. And that's basically what my first book is about.
Right. And I love that. And, and I remember from episode 70, when you told me that, I took my breath away, because I can't even imagine having to go through that. And there was two things that you said that really stuck out for me. One was, I guess three, because you said your mom just walked around and made tea, and that your dad sat in a chair with a magazine upside down.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh, like your dad, like who was the rock probably of the family, to see that magazine was like turned upside down. I just, that must have like tore you apart. And then the other thing that you said that really stuck out to me is that you lost your voice, and you were always the one that was like, it was okay. But you physically, literally, didn't you literally lose your voice?
I just couldn't physically eat anything. I just physically couldn't. It was so hard, because when something like that happens, and people that have been through grief will know, it's like everything's the first after that person has gone. I can't explain it. Like I couldn't bear wearing something or touching something that I had touched before when she was here, when she wasn't here. Your life suddenly sort of splits. You get when she was and when she wasn't. So you do all these weird things, like I went and touched everything. I went in my house, and I had to go and do that. And then I had to, it was just, I don't know, it's just I'd never really lost anyone before, but sorry, yeah.
No, I was going to say, well, to lose them the way you lost her. Murder, as you said, now she was evidence. And like, again, as like, a sane person that's had, we've all, as you said, we all have our stories, and sad is sad and sad is sad. But something so violent and the way, that just, I can't even kind of wrap my head around it.
It does. It was like you sort of can't even as a policeman was stood there, and I drove back from London. My sister said, "Don't go on air," and I was like, "Of course I'm not. I'm coming." And we all my family migrated to our house, and we all stayed there for I can't remember how long it was, a couple of weeks. We all slept on the floor, and we all sort of took these different roles. My brother was fantastic with dealing with the police, and my sister was just her mum. Obviously it was like waves of feelings. Then we're trying to be brave for the little ones, and it was, it's just so sad. And another thing that we had to deal with the press as well, because the British press, if anyone's in England, they'll know what that's like. And it was a sensational story. Another young boy, he was 20, he was killed at the same time as her friend. And it was a ridiculous story, and I won't even go into that. But it was, they've made TV shows out of it. I've had to go and try and stop that, because it's so... Who are these people making these things out of something so negative? Which is when I always circle back to, you have to try and find the positive. And the way that I looked at that was, it's so sad, but I can't believe I was so lucky that I had her. She was such a positive person. And I do believe you come when you come and you leave when you leave. Like, I honestly really believe that. Mm-hmm. And she was an amazing artist. And in her room, she'd left us like all these messages saying things like, and this is how I know that she was like an earth angel. It's like, when you cry, I'll cry, but when you smile, I'll smile. And she'd written a poem when she was 13 about dying when she was older. Weird thing, she dreamt what actually happened to her. She dreamt 2 days before. She actually dreamt it. And she was crying in the kitchen, telling my sister about it. And then obviously it's like almost like your soul preparing for it.
Right.
So although desperately sad, of course, and if I could have changed it, I would, but I can't. So all I'm left with is trying to find some positivity out of it. And the one thing I wanted, the one thing I needed and I couldn't have, is I wanted to speak to somebody that had been through the same experience, and for them to say to me, you will be all right. You can live your life after this. Like, there is a life after tragedy. And that's really, that's what I want to tell children when they're going through, because we've all had times when we've been bullied or something's happened and you sort of think, I'll never get through this, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, whoever, they leave you, and it's so devastating. But you can get past everything and anything. And with everything that I teach children, that's what I'm teaching them. And I think it's absolutely imperative. Like, every spiritual book, every crystal book, anything to do with it. I mean, I've probably bought most of them, but I love that. I love more of us out there, the better. Let's all hold hands and just make it big. I'm not saying everyone should definitely come to me, or I'm some sort of superhero that's got all the answers. I'm saying let's all get together and let's make this happen, because it's so important. And that's really why I wrote it, because when I looked for my daughter, how am I going to teach all these things in a way that she understands everything that I wanted to teach her, there wasn't anything around. So I thought, well, right, then I'm going to make it.
Yeah. And so but I love that. And I love, because you are a positive person, right? So you were born a positive person, you said, and you had things that you did to, kind of support your positivity. And I really believe, and people that listen to this, we all have a path, right? And whether you believe in God or the universe or both, that you will find that path at certain points, whether it's a tragedy or it's, you keep getting signs, or it's like something that you want to do and it's some intuition. And what I found just so beautiful, when I heard your story again, way back when it was, number 70, which I feel like I started this in 2019. So it was definitely over a year and a half, whatever.
Yeah.
Is that you, from that, were like, I want to show Alice that I'm not going to let what happened to her take me down, because that's not the person she was. She would never want this. She would be dying that we were all so sad. So I'm going to do something that's positive, and then I'm going to take it and help others.
Yeah.
And so take us through, first, how many books do you have? And then take us through how that kind of evolved, because I want people to hear it so they can think in their own mind, okay, well, this has happened to me and I've always wanted to help, but where do I start? So if you can take us kind of a little bit down that road.
Sure. Really, it started as a cathartic project for me. I've always journaled ever since I was younger, which are hilarious to read, by the way, when you look back. So just writing was always, and I sort of always felt, it's funny, my husband, when I met him, I was TV, I always wanted to be famous, and that was always my goal. And then when I moved to Nashville and no one could understand me because of my accent, I was like, I need to rethink this one. But I always sort of I love kids, and I've always been obsessed with fairies. And one day I just thought, how do I get all this out of me? I've got to write. And then I started I just literally one day wrote a list of everything I love. Who am I? What's my passion? What do I really want? How can I connect with children, but doing it in a way that it's not a job. It's something that I just love. Because it never started out as I'm going to write a book and sell it. It started out as sort of almost like journal notes, and then they sort of got bigger, and then I started to dream up fairies and I would doodle them. And then I think when you're on the right path, people get put in front of you. Like one of my good friends, Alison, she's amazing. She writes books, and she was like, yeah, you can totally write a book, because I'm actually chronically dyslexic. So I was like, well, obviously I'm never going to write.
And everyone knows that that's about me. And that's one of the things that we also we were like, oh yeah, this is amazing, because we both have that. And that's, a huge part of my story. And even when we first met, that was, part of my story. But now as I have evolved in this last year and a half in my storytelling, I realized how much that actually was a part of my life and is a part of my life. So go ahead. But right. So when someone says write a book and you're dyslexic, you're like, yeah, you know what? No, thanks.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like, how am I going to do that? But that it just didn't get in my way, because although I was struggling, I'd sort of worked through the dyslexia, and just so the words would just flow. And, I don't know about how I would say that. It just wrote itself. It's really weird. It's just, Alison got put in my path, and then she had an illustrator, and she'd worked with this illustrator for years, and she was just about to take a break, and she was like, it would actually be great if you could pick her up. And I met this lady, and she was like, oh, I'm not sure I can do that. And we worked, and she's brilliant. My illustrator is absolutely fantastic, not just as a brilliant illustrator, but she's become a really good friend of mine. Like, she's unbelievable, been so generous with her time and helping on the journey, because I'm obviously mad as a box of frogs as well, because I'm all creative, but she's sort of like ridden the wave with me. So I started to put it together, and then I realized, you know what, every modality I love and have done my whole life, well, in so long as I can remember, to do with crystals and oils and everything. And then I thought, but every modality is a career, is somebody's whole life. You know, crystals, you know, somebody like a Judy Hall, or, you know, a company like doTERRA or Young Living or something like that. So people that study angels. So I was like, if I'm going to write this, I don't just want to write from me. I want to join up with people and really expand on that. So I literally went and bought every book, did every study, did every course on each modality. That was the first thing I did. And it was just great. I loved it wasn't a chore. It was like, oh, I couldn't, you know, I just couldn't get enough of it. And then I connected with somebody from each modality. Like, I went and found a crystal expert, and I really dug deep into, how do I responsibly give this information to children in a way that is really, really clever and informative, but also really fun. So it's sort of like, it's sort of fun as well, but really it's actually a lot of information. So I did that, and I did that with everything. Crystals, you know, I didn't just go to an essential oil person. I went to an aromatherapist, because, you know, I know stuff, but I know a lot, but you're always learning, aren't you? Mm-hmm. So I went, and they're all credited in my book, and we worked together. And, you know, I just, everything that I wrote, I was like, is this good? Is this, and we would tweak it and we would work. So, you know, I felt really responsible. So it took me a long time to do it. But once I did one, they were like, I'm not good at many things, but writing books I'm really good at.
Right. And you are good at many things, but right. I mean, it is
dance, but yeah.
No. And I think when, you know, again, a year and a half ago, you had, I mean, I feel like over 30 books.
Well, there's not only books, because yes, what I've got is, I've got my main book, which is my Mindful of Happiness, which has got everything in. And then what I did, I've branched out from that, and I've got my crystal fairies and my oil fairies, and they've each got like a little spiritual mindfulness book. So like Roxy the Rose Quartz and Orangey the Essential Oil Fairy, and then they meet sometimes, and they're sort of little stories. You know, so it's all thread all the way through, you know, like Rosie the Rose Quartz Fairy, she's pink and she's very calm, and their natures are the properties of crystals, and the colours of the nature. So it's done in a way so that children will just get it without knowing that they're getting it. And then I've written a sleeping story to help children be calm and tell them about the oils and the crystals that work with that. And then I've also got a workbook that goes with the book. It's 120 pages. And so you work together, and it's great, because what happens is parents that get it, they can work with their kids through it. So, and that's something that I'm just about to start mentoring, so we can work together, so I can help parents with children that are highly anxious or worried, or just want to give them kids these tools, because A, it arms them with the tools, and B, it carves out really, really a magical time that they can spend together and work through the book and the workbook, and then we can see ways of overcoming stuff, you know. So, and just, yeah, it's just really all about empowering children, giving them their power back, giving them these tools. And my hope would be that they would come away, and even if they just had love of one thing, like maybe crystals is their thing, or maybe they find meditation, it's like, you know, that's going to be their thing, or they really understand about how, you know, food controls their body and the difference that it'll make if you would just drink some more, you know, swap out fizzy for water. Just one change, that would be good. That would be good enough for me. So that's the plan. And but really, this is all just a calling card for my big plan.
Yeah. So tell us, because that's what I know. When we first, it was a dream. Like, you know, it was one of those things. And everyone that listens to my podcast, sees my live shows, know that daydreaming is a huge, you know, I'm a huge advocate for. And I always say to people, you need to find that time to daydream. And daydreaming is not a negative thing. And some people call it meditation. I call it daydreaming. And I don't meditate. Like, I don't sit on a mat, because when I sit on the mat, I think about the laundry and the dishwasher. If I'm walking my dogs, is when I create in my mind. So I always say to everyone, you need to find that space. You need to find that space. It doesn't have to be a traditional thing, you know, where it's just where you find where you can create in your mind. So I know when we initially had spoken, you're like, well, this is my next big dream. And so tell, and I know you're far into it. I know you can't tell too much about it, but I'm just like, again, and everyone I know that is, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, or here live in Fireside or listening to the replay, I mean, they can hear your heart. And they can hear just what a wonderful, amazing human you are. And again, that you want to help. And it came out of tragedy. And, the tragedy, as crazy and awful as it was, it actually, that it's Alice speaking to you as you're doing these things. And that you're, that she's there with you going, yes, Auntie, I'm so proud of you. Yes.
I feel like she sort of wrote half of it, really. It really, it sort of feels like that. And again, having those people sort of put in my path made it, just made the process just so much better. And what I didn't mention, because I think, and I will just briefly mention this because it's relevant to the story and relevant to people that are going through things. But 2.5 years, 3 years after this happened, my best friend died of cancer. And the only reason I'm mentioning Polly is for a couple of reasons. One, because I want to honour her, but also she gave me all my knowledge about smoothies and healthy eating. And I would not have had that without her. But also because Alice had died and I'd gone through that grief, when I had to deal with her, because I had those modalities and I'd experienced that and I'd used those processes and habits, I was able to not breeze past it. Of course, it was a process, but so much easier and so much quicker than it was with Alice because I'd prepared myself. And that's really what I'm trying to say, to encourage people to do, that if you give yourself these tools and these habits, you will, every time will be easier and easier. And that's not to diminish the grief or how you feel, but it's to know that there is another side. I promise you, whatever depths you're in, because I felt sometimes you feel like you're in a black hole. That's how grief felt to me. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that's
no, and I love that. And I actually was going to get back to that because when we had our show, my best friend Susie had died of, friend. And I actually, it's funny, I have my podcast, but I really haven't, I know Susie's with me at all times and she's probably like, yeah, you don't talk about it enough. She's probably like sitting there yelling at me right now. And I know she'd be so proud of where I am, but that was her death. She died of frontal lobe dementia at 40. I mean, 42. I mean, it just is like insane. Like when people are like, wait, what did she say? Frontal lobe dementia? Yep. My friend had dementia. I completely watched her for years just shrink into this person that couldn't speak anymore, couldn't walk. And I would literally go every Friday and I would, sit and wrestle with her, or like, we would play ball or something, and I'd bring the kids whenever they could. And it was all of a sudden seeing this incredible woman that was an artist, who was the light, who had this laugh that you would like literally stop in your tracks, to like, and she always remembered me. So frontal lobe dementia, they still remember, but they don't know, like they just literally become a child, and then almost like an autistic child, and then almost like even further into that. So it was insane. So I know when we talked, I think when I literally said in the episode, like we laughed, we cried, which we really did, because we both did, because it was something that I learned from Susie. I did watch her, kind of die in front of me for years. And I remember when she did go, when she left this earth, because, I mourned when she left, when she wasn't the person she was for years. I think it was like 3 years that, I would go and I'd be like, I cannot believe that this is my friend. This is like, I couldn't have a conversation with her. You didn't talk. It was not a conversation anymore. She would like repeat you. And then she lost her voice, and then she lost a lot of bodily functions. And so it was just watching that happen. And seeing, she had 2 young sons, she and her ex-husband actually had gotten divorced before, because he didn't know that this was happening with frontal lobe dementia. The first thing that goes is really your, kind of your sympathy. So he would come home from, work, and she would have this wonderful meal in front of him. He'd be like, oh, where's mine? And she'd be like, oh, I didn't make it for you. And the kids would be eating like a bowl of cereal in front of the floor, like in front of the TV, which they never did. And he was like, what is going on? So he thought that she just stopped loving him. They went to therapy, and she was like, oh, you want to get divorced? And he was like, well, no, but do you? And she's like, yeah, sure. Because it's like she lost that part, and you didn't know that that's what was happening. And so it was just insane seeing the little pieces as after she passed. But so I remember you saying that, with Alice, and then with Polly, who Alice, when Polly was there for you, she was one of your support systems. And then to lose her, just as, again, like a kick in the stomach, like, oh my gosh, okay, God, what are you telling me? What do I need? But so again, I love that you brought that up. So I totally appreciate you brought that up, because that is where, like, she taught you all these different things. And again, it was your path. And that's what, like, as much as it's awful and it's terrible, that all those experiences that you went through just are here because you're going to help a multitude of people. Like, it's not just like where you're going to help with like your little, your little pod there. You're going to be helping people in all generations, in all countries, because of these two experiences that you had.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a huge. Polly was. You're right. She was a complete support network to me. We were like sisters, really. So it was really, and she was so positive. Like, she was like, "I'm definitely not going to die." So, and I believed her. I was. It sounds ridiculous because, again, similar to you, I watched her dying essentially in front of me, but I just never ever thought I was going to get that call, because I just, because we were all about positivity and really, but yeah, it was. And actually, when Alice died, she'd helped Alice heal from her eczema completely by giving her this protocol of juicing. And I found a note from Alice for Bliss, and it was things to do. Number one, ring Polly and thank her for making my skin better. And she had never got round to doing it. So, but it's sort of all interlinked. And that's what I mean. As sad as it is, it feels very purpose driven. It feels as if everything that was meant to happen has happened for that reason. And even when I moved to Nashville, when I moved to America, I was so, having had this perfect life of like never anything tragic, to then Alice and Polly and moving countries and moving to the Bible Belt in Nashville. It was like so different, culturally different. And not wrong, I've met some lovely people, but I was so desperately lonely there, because just finding difficulty in connecting with people, because so I really went through all these other things as well, almost, like this loneliness and not fitting in. And suddenly I felt like Superman, but with, is it kryptonite?
Yeah.
I felt like, because my superhero power was making friends with people and having people like me, and suddenly people didn't. And I was like,
well, wait, what's happening? Right. Which is so weird though. Like, that makes me like, I think that just is, you're such a light, but again, it's because it's different from what they experienced.
And also, I was very loud. I'm from London. My husband's a lot younger than me. He was in a rock band, and like, who's this girl? And I'm super confident over, I don't want to say obnoxious, but just different. It's different when you grow up in London to going to places where everything, people marry a lot younger. So it was just different. So, and again, the reason I say that is because you cannot have empathy, I don't think, for loneliness, for heartbreak, for grief, for all of those experiences, for being ostracized, being victim, all of those things, because his family didn't like me either. It's another story. But unless you've experienced it. And I really feel like I have had 10 years of like being through this roller coaster, but I'm absolutely out the other side now. And that's why I'm ready to like set the world on
fire. But, right. Unfair. No, I love that you said that. But here's the other thing that I want to touch on that you said. And this comes up a lot in the podcast now as my podcast has evolved, is that when you were writing, it almost was like you were in a flow. Like, it wasn't difficult. It just was there. And I had a very similar experience. And, Gina and Stephanie in the audience are going to applaud to this. But when I was at the live shows for the NFL at the Super Bowl with the women, before I was thinking, okay, well, I need to be a little bit prepared. Like, when I do an interview, I don't like to do too much research, because it's all about the conversation. It's all about me being curious and asking curious questions. But I was like, okay, these people are going to be coming up. There's going to be famous people. I really should know their names. Like, so if I can have like a little bit of a laundry list of who's going to be at the networking event, and like, who's going to be at the fashion show, just like an idea, because people have RSVP'd. My partner, Cynthia, was like, I can't get that to you. You'll be fine. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with it. And I remember sitting down and, and thinking, I hired an agency because I was like, I just hope everything it's broadcast, and I hope we have the Wi-Fi and all of those things. And I literally sat down in the chair and I did not have a nerve at all. It was the most amazing thing. I was jet lagged. I just think I just had one shake, the whole day. Thank you. And again, not that everyone needs to know this, but I had my period. There were so many things that could have went wrong that nothing did. And I was so in the flow. And I just afterwards was like, okay, I see you, God. I'm in the spot that I'm supposed to be in. I've been listening to you. People have been put in my path because this is what you have meant for me. And all my other experiences, like, so when I decided to stay, when I was in advertising and then had children and I stayed home with the children, and, then I did some of, I taught, I was an instructor for health and fitness. Those were not the wrong path. Those were just a path that were building on my story. And now I'm in the spot where you want me to. And I can't wait to see where this goes, because this is fun, right? So as you were writing and you were feeling that, you were like, okay, this is great. So tell us now, like, what you have in the works. And, I know you can't tell us too much, but like what you have in the works and what you've been working on and your, this big dream.
Well, my goal is, like I said, the book was always really like my calling card. I don't even care. Eventually I'd like to be in a position where I can just give these books away, like the first book, because I feel like I think about foster kids and children's homes, people that really need it. Because at the very beginning of the book, it says, this book found you because it wants to be with you. And that's why I want it. I love it when people buy. Often people, they'll buy it and then they'll buy a gift for somebody. And I love that. And I've gifted a lot of them.
Yes, no, I remember. Yeah.
Just because I really feel like I want kids to have it. I think it's important, and I'd love it in schools as well. I think that's going to be, there's work to do with that, but I think it would be brilliant to have that. But this is my goal with it. So I've got my book, I've got all my other books, which is like a subscription, which is going to have stickers and affirmation cards and bookmarks and all sorts of things like that. I'm just about to open a merch store so that people can attach whatever fairy they like to anything that they want. Maybe you want Zeraphina, who's the sleeping fairy, as a blanket, or the flower of life, which is a really powerful healing symbol that you could have on cups, or a little prayer. Radhi Shetty, Jay Shetty's wife, who's in my book, she talks a lot about how you can have so you can put a little prayer on your child's lunchbox. So there's loads of stuff with that. So that's one thing. But the books I want to lead to this TV show, because that's really my background. I started my life in Pinewood Studios a million years ago in Buckinghamshire, and in kids animation. So when I didn't know you were going there, but it just put it together. And I've got this TV show that I absolutely love, and I've got some really big names huge big names that are very, very interested in it, and we're pushing it. And so we're starting to have meetings now about it and talking to. I don't want to talk about the networks or who it is because I haven't asked them.
No, you can't, right? Yeah.
But yes, I'm getting a lot of yeses, a lot of interest. And this will be a really, really powerful show, because again, it's giving those subtle messages. It's really positive. It's got all of the feeling of, the Paw Patrol with the team building, and My Little Pony, how cute, and the little Care Bears, and Pixie Hallow with the fairies. But it also delivers like a really powerful message. It teaches children about everything that you talk about: meditation, yoga, healthy eating, but it does it in a really cute way. And two things happen in every show. First of all, you've got everybody wears a flower of life. You're given one by the Flower of Life fairy. You don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be a necklace, or somebody's got a tattoo, because there's fairies for everybody. And then all of it, whatever happens, all the fairies of life sort of join up, and they send out like this beam of energy, and whatever fairy is needed comes in. So we meet a plethora. There's probably, I think I've got about 60 fairies now. So they come in. And also at the end of every show, you've got Roxy, who's our main character. She'll come in, and you'll sort of pull out of the TV screen, and she comes onto the show, and she'll give the child an affirmation. So this is what, so she'll say, thank you so much. Oh, I love you. Thank you for watching. Today we learned that this is so important. Go and give somebody, go and tell someone you love, or go and do this. So it leaves really positive, which I think is really, really important. So that's
important.
Yeah, so that's the TV show. So I'm really excited about that, because that's my absolute passion. And that could be something that can be sort of worldwide. And not only for the messages, not only for the habits, not only for the teaching, but also it's completely diverse. I've consulted with a diversity lawyer from the LSE, which is London School of Economics. It's like our Harvard in there, and she's super. She's brilliant. Obviously she's going to be a professor, so she's I've because again, I understand about diversity. I want to be sensitive to that, but I want to have it on a level that really gets to everybody, so that every single child, whatever feeling they're going through, they're going to see a fairy and be like, there's somebody like me in there.
Right.
Whatever that is, whatever that is. So that's something as well. And I just want that flowing through. Not doesn't even need to be talked about much, or maybe we will, but it's just going to be flowing through. So again, something that I've thought about. And then from the show, my next project, or where I see this going, is I don't know if Peppa Pig is huge. Peppa Pig World is here actually in England, about 20 minutes from where I am. But I want to create like a little place in something like they've got it here in Polton's Park. So it's like a little place that you can go with your kids, and you can ride all the rides that Peppa Pig rides. You know, you can go to the schoolhouse, you can go and ride it, the windy hill or whatever it is. So what I'm going to do is have Fairy Club and create a place where children will go, and you'll go to the toadstool tea rooms and you'll learn how to make, the fairies call it a smoothie, not a smoothie, just a little flower.
Oh, I love that.
So you'll make a little smoothie together, and you'll explain what's needed in that. You'll go over to the fairy town hall and there's somebody teaching about meditation, or you'll go over to the waterfall where you can rinse your crystals and learn, you know, like when you dig for gold, if you go to one of those. Where did I do that recently? Was it Dollywood? I can't remember. Yeah. So you can go and dig for crystals, and then every crystal you get out, you can like learn the properties of it. So that's where I'm going with this.
And you will. And that's the thing. You totally will. So tell everyone where they can find you.
Okay. So everywhere is Fairy Club. My website is fairyclub.love. That's where you can find me. And that's where everything is really. But all of my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, everything is just Fairy Club Love.
Yes. And so you guys can see that actually scrolling. And again, it will be in the show notes. But, Kathryn, I love that you are back. I mean, we've always, through Instagram or whatever, we've always stayed in touch because, I feel like we have so many synergies, but also so many beliefs, but also our energies. Like we would be, if we lived in the same town, we'd be, palling around. But I love what you're doing, but I just love the message that you're out there, but it's also, showing people that, you can dream big and you can make things happen. And I think that's so important. And I know when you said, you had a great life until, a couple tragedies happened, but again, you're dyslexic. So life, you had your struggles, right? But you also,
absolutely. I was definitely a chubby kid, always the one picked last at sport. I think, I did go through a lot of things as a child, but I think it was always, because it was just me that was going through it. I was like,
we're good. No, right.
I'm being the chubby one because all my brothers and sisters were super slim. And in fact, my mum just said to me the other day, which I was like, great psychology, mother. She's like, do you remember when you thought you were really fat and stupid? And I was like, I was with my brother and we were just like dying laughing.
Lovely. Well, it's so true. But it goes back to like when people ask me like, what will just make you be unstoppable? Like you don't stop. And I'm like, well, it's because I think probably how many times I failed as a student, but I just kept getting back up, I just kept getting back up because it was like, okay, well, that was hard. Oh, I sucked at that, but I had a lot of talent. I did have a lot of strengths. And so, I think that it's, hold on one second. My dog just got my highlighter and started chewing that, and that would have been a mess. So it's just a really important message that you're getting out there. And I love that, it's so close to your heart, but it's also, you've created this in your mind. And I just can't wait. You guys go over to Fairy Club Love, Instagram, websites, but also if you're listening to this, wherever you are, and you're like, oh, that doesn't really pertain to me. It does in some way. If you actually just stopped and think of everyone in your life, whether it's a neighbor, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, someone needs to hear this show. Someone needs to hear this message. Someone needs a book, the Fairy Club Love book, because they're going through something that they maybe don't need to handle. So I want you guys to go out and share this to as many people as you can. I also want to thank Together Women Rise, who is sponsoring this episode. And that is a woman equality. They're doing so many crazy, amazing things where they're changing. I mean, the projects that they're having, they're going to be on more, but go over to togetherwomenrise.org and you guys can learn a little bit more about that as well. But I just want to say thank you so much, Kathryn, and good luck with everything. I can't wait to just be like, I had her on, a year and a half ago. I knew her first.
Oh, well, thank you. It's so nice to chat with you. And also, if there's anyone that, if you know of a charity or there's somebody that needs a book, please contact me. It's Hello Fairy, Hello Fairy at fairyclub.love. And I'm happy to donate anything because I'm not just, it's not just lip service. I really mean that. I really want kids to have it that need it. And I'm happy and love to do that. And also big on collaboration because I really believe if we all just held each other's hand, right? If we all got rid of all this rubbish that, let's competition or this or that. I don't believe I've had a lot of people help me for no reason. I've got a lot of celebrities in my book and everyone did it for free. People like Radhi Shetty, Prince Air, I've got John Edward, I've got some really big names and they were all in, no question. Vision from Mind Valley, amazing people. So if I can give to somebody, if someone wants my help, writing a book, do something, please, because that's what we're here for, isn't it? And I believe we're all in each other's soul circle. And if we all just do that, let's all stand on each other's shoulders. That's great. It's all for the same purpose. We can't take it with us.
But it's so true. It's so true. And that's what, and that's another reason why we get along so well because we embody each other. I remember after our last episode, I was like, oh, you need to talk to this person. And you're like, oh, you need to talk to this person. And we, exchanged all these different people. And so that's what's beautiful about it. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. Again, if you guys know people and also know people that, Kathryn is far with the TV show, but again, you never know who you know in your world that might be like, oh, wait a second, they, can get you here or they know this person. So think about it, reach out, get in touch with, Kathryn and just, again, guys, thank you for joining YNS Live with my guest, Kathryn Camsey. So thank you so much, Kathryn. Again, I just adore you.
Oh, adore you too.
So we're going to invite Wait Bada. Thank you guys again. Don't forget to share this. We will see you next week with another live show. And